In this video, we will look at our last apportionment method called Lownde's method. Pictured off to the right here is Lownde himself. The first two steps are going to look very familiar, and the third one actually will look pretty familiar as well. Calculate the divisor the way we've done it, total population divided by the number of seats. 2, calculate the state's quota by dividing the state's population by the divisor from step 1. And in step 3, we've done something like this before, where we just cut off all the decimals on the quotas and call that the initial apportionment, just taking the whole numbers. This is the number of seats that each state will at least get. This is new in step 4. So to give out the extra seats, the ones that are missing from step 3, what you do is you're going to divide each state's decimal part. This is the part that's underlined and bolded, right? Each decimal part by the whole number part. So we're going to take the state's decimal part, whatever it is, and we're going to divide it by the whole number part. So let me give you an example of that. Let's say, for example, that a state's quota was 12.317. Then when we figure out this ratio here, we're going to take just the decimal part, which is the 0.317, and we're going to divide it by the whole number part, which is 12. Now, this will give us a pretty extremely small decimal a lot of times, but I'm just going to write it down. I'm going to round it off. It's about 0.0264, and it goes on. The decimal goes on. But we'll use this to assign the remaining seats. Whoever has the largest of this ratio will get the next seat, and so on until we've given out all the seats. So it's kind of similar to Hamilton in that sense, but instead of just looking at the decimal part, we're going to calculate this ratio first. Let's take a look at our first example. I'm going to do just a little bit of it here by hand with you, and then I'm going to go to Excel for the rest of it. This is the same example we've used in the other videos about the Bandana Republic with 4 states giving out 160 seats. Let's remember that our total population is 8 million, and so our divisor, again, will be the 8 million divided by the 160 seats, which I believe is 50,000, because I've done it so many times now. And yes, it is indeed 50,000. All right. Then we're going to calculate each of the quotas in the normal way, right? Take the state population, 3,310,000 divided by the divisor. And that's 66.2. Now, I'm going to leave the rest of those for Excel in just a moment. But the initial apportionment would just be the whole number part. And then we're going to look at, consider just the decimal part, which is just 0.2 in this case. So when I calculate my ratio, this is the ratio we use for Lowndes. This is kind of the new piece. We're going to take the decimal part, which is 0.2, and we're going to divide it by the whole number part, which is 66. Now, I don't have a lot of room to write this in here. And you're going to see that on Excel, I'm just going to use a formula. So I'm going to take 0.2 divided by 66, and it's indeed a very small decimal. I'm going to use 4 decimal places in this case because the decimals are so small, 0.0030 rounding off. All right, now I won't be able to get this final apportionment until after I've calculated every single state's ratio and quotas. So let's finish this problem using Excel. All right, here we go. So going over to Excel, maybe a little faster way to do it, again, is to type a formula. So for the quota, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in a formula. Remember, we did that by hitting the equals button. Equals, I'm going to click on the state population to the left, hit the divide by symbol, and divide by the divisor, 50,000, all right? Now, remember, there's a shortcut for keeping the divisor consistent, and that is put a $ before and after the B there, and I can drag that to give everybody's, or I can do it line by line. Our initial apportionment can be done by using the floor feature or just by typing it in. So if you want to just type in 66, that's probably easiest, 53, this could be really quick, 26, 13, I'm just going to type those numbers. The decimal part, you can, again, just type that in, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. If the numbers were more complex, I could do that. Now, for here, I definitely want to use a formula. So I'm going to type equals. I'm going to do the decimal part. So I'll first click on the decimal box, and then divided by the whole number part. I'll click on the whole number part, which is the apportionment line, initial apportionment, hit enter. Okay, so I have a little error there. I accidentally typed a period at the end. Don't want to do that. But again, there it is. There's that decimal. Now, remember earlier, I called it 0.0030, but I'll just leave all these decimals with the computer, and dragging all of these, I can see all my decimals. One thing I skipped in the previous step, I'm going to go back and do it, is I forgot to add up the initial apportionment, right? How many seats did I already give out? If I add that up, I see there's 158. So I need two more, right? Two more seats to give out. So what I do to give out those 2 extra seats to get up to my 160 is I examine these 4 decimals and decide, okay, which one is the largest, right? Well, the very largest one, we want to look for the decimal places. So the first 2 are 0.00, and the last 2 are 0.02 and 0.06. Now, again, if you would just keep 4 decimal places or 3 decimal places, I'm going to change these numbers just to have 4 decimal places like you might do it by hand. Then it might be a little easier to compare. 615, 231, 75, and 30. So you can see the bottom 2 are the largest 2. So they're going to get the extra seats, right? Dolores is the largest. It'll get an extra seat. So it goes from 13 seats to 14 seats. And then the second largest ratio is Carabobo, and they're going to go from 26 seats to 27. That means the first 2 states, Puree and Barinas, are going to stay the same. Now, something you might notice is the largest states did not get a seat. It's because Lownde's method favors smaller states. And the way that it favors smaller states is all key in this step. Since you're dividing by a whole number, larger states have a larger whole number because there's more population. So they typically end up with a smaller ratio. So Lownde's method quite frequently will give the smallest states the extra seat. Let's take a look at one more example. That's the example we've done with all the other methods. Remember the one with the city buses and the 6 routes, right? 130 buses. We're going to do this same problem using Lownde's method. I'm going to use Excel. All right, so I'm going to go over to my other tab at the bottom left-hand corner. There are all the average number of passengers. Remember, 130,000 is the total. We want to apportion 130 buses. So we quickly find the divisor equals the total population divided by buses. So our divisor is 1,000. Calculate the state's quota by hitting equals the bus passenger numbers divided by the divisor. Or you could just type, actually, if you want, you don't have to always link it. You could just say type divided by 1,000 since the divisor is 1,000. And then you can easily drag that formula as well. Now, remember, we can use a formula here, but it's pretty easy just to type the whole numbers: 45, 31, 20, 14, 10, and 8. Now, again, you could type the decimal parts if you want, just type them out, or you can even use a formula like equals the quota, take away the whole number, right? And that'll just give you the decimal part that remains. So that's another possibility. But either way, any way you want to get the decimals, you definitely want a formula here equals the decimal part divided by the whole number part. All right. And we have 3 decimals there. And since I've already formatted these cells for 3 decimals, it's pretty easy to compare: 90, 26, 11, 24, 2, and 7 thousandths. So we're going to go over here and see how many total buses we've already given out. And remember, we've done this step before. There's 128. So I need 2 more, right? I need 2 more buses. The very largest decimal is the 90 at the bottom. That's F. All right. So there is going to go from 8 buses to 9 buses. And the next largest one is actually this 0.026. That's slightly larger than the 0.024. So they're going to go from 10 buses to 11 buses. That means all of the other 4 will stay the same: 45, 31, 20, 14. You can always check to make sure that you have the right number of buses. It is, in fact, 130. So last thing I want to point out is you'll notice that once again, the routes with the least number of passengers, that's the E and F, ended up getting the extra buses. This method, Lownde's method, favors the small states or the small amounts. I hope this lesson has helped you learn more about Lownde's method.